My Hero Academia chapter 373 is out, and we actually get a very cool cover page for this new chapter, and it's featuring Kurogiri himself, or Shirakumo to be specific. As always, the color page is very good this week, and I really do like it. Before we get into that though, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy anything you see in this video, thank you. But going into the chapter, we actually start off seeing Shoji himself, and we see that he's still trying to fight off the different members of the resistance, and right now we're going to kind of get into the fact that a lot of people are starting to break down and not really go on with what Spinner was saying, and they're not really following him, and we see that a lot during this chapter. In one of the panels, we see that somebody was trying to attack Shoji himself, and we see that another mutant type person stops this person's attack, and they start to kind of stare at them, and we see that there's no real conviction in his eyes anymore. It seems like he kind of is not really understanding why they're even fighting off the people right now, and it seems like a lot of people are starting to come to their senses, and he even starts saying that I don't really, know what I'm doing with my rage, I'm not thinking correctly. And we see that as he's thinking this, one of the enemies is still telling them to, follow your leader, keep going, what are you doing, why are you thinking right now, just do whatever we tell you to do. And we obviously see that this isn't going to work with a lot of the mutant characters right now. They're starting to realize, why are we doing this, why are we fighting against them like this, and they really are coming to their senses. The same one that actually stopped the attack that was going towards Shoji starts to think, why are we doing this? And he tells himself that he's been attacked multiple times, and it does make his blood boil, but he's just not sure why they're even doing this right now. And we see him actually hold on to Shoji, and he starts asking him, are you going to laugh at me too? He starts to actually go more in depth, saying that he did kind of get excited at the idea of a call to action and trying to fight back against the injustices that they were going through, but he does realize that right now what they're doing really isn't going to solve any of their problems. And I do love that we're finally getting into the whole mutant stuff, and it's best to have Shoji here. That's why I love that Horikoshi had him throughout this whole fight, since he's one of the prime people that's trying to fight against the injustices that they go through. And it really is cool seeing Shoji here, and we see that he almost is a guiding light to a lot of the people here, and this person really does want guidance right now. He does want guidance, and Shoji's going to try to help him through that. We see one of the enemies that was trying to brainwash them even say that the octopus guy kind of got to them and is making them actually think instead of not thinking at all and just going along with the fever that he calls it. And he even says it himself that he was trying to kind of radicalize them to make it so that they kind of have a wall against any and all logic that would tell them to maybe stop doing what they were doing. And it just shows that right now they aren't even really caring about the actual mutants. This really is just all for one trying to have a way to get to Kurogiri, and it is genius on his part to have them kind of do the work for him, but it just shows that he really doesn't care about what the mutants go through. He really doesn't care at all, and he just wants his stuff to come to fruition. He doesn't care at all about these people, and his followers don't care either. Again, the same mutant guy starts to question whether or not he should have just stayed at a shelter instead of coming out here and trying to fight against the different people that he thought were kind of giving injustice to him. And he starts to ask Shoji, should he have just stayed? Should he have actually left out? Is he doing the right thing right now? And Shoji actually starts to talk, and he says that the feeling that gathered all of you here today was never really wrong, and it's really not wrong. He really isn't wrong for actually coming out that day, and Shoji realizes that, but he also kind of explains that maybe they should have used this kind of feeling in a different way to kind of get what they wanted, but right now this really isn't the best way for them to show off how they feel to the entire world. He explains that he actually wants them to use that light, the light and rays of hope, to kind of show the world that, they were treated wrongly, and to have that be a way that they are able to kind of get better treatment and stuff. And I think that really is the best way for them to go about it, to use that ray of light to really help their cause instead of going about it the way they are right now. Even Rocklock explains in one of the panels at the bottom that, they were all fired up beforehand, but now they're probably really thinking about what they were doing, and they're realizing after what Shoji said that there really is a better way to go about this, and there really is better ways to kind of show the world that they mean business, but at the same time do it in the correct way, just to get their voices out and to get their feelings heard. So it really is amazing that Shoji was able to kind of show everybody the bright future that they could have if they go about doing this in a different way. With that being said, we finally cut back into the actual inside of the hospital, where we know that Spinner and Present Mike are at, and we see that even Rocklock is saying, reinforcements, please move to the hospital. And we see that Spinner is actually hit by one of the blasts from Present Mike, and this kind of incapacitates him completely, and he drops one of the recordings that he had that I'm assuming he was going to try to use to wake up Kurogiri and make him, fight for all for one instead of going to the hero side. And he even mentions this, that without it they can't really wake up Kurogiri. Kurogiri is of course still just sitting there, and I think this is a panel of Present Mike saying this, and he's saying that if worse comes to worst and he's almost going to go into the hands of the villains, and I'm assuming what Present Mike means by this is that he may have to end up taking out Kurogiri if it comes to that and it's very close to him going to the villain side, which would be very sad since this really is his best friend. So it'd be very sad if he had to do this, but he might have to. But that's why we see him kind of rationalize that, you know, he hasn't really reacted since that day and maybe he's completely broken. And we see that Spinner's still on the floor. He's saying that his mind is getting blank and he's starting to shrink right now. The scales are gone and he's really regressing in terms of strength, and he's saying, you know, is that the end of the line right now? He's still talking in that sort of broken English, so it seems like his mind is still kind of turning into that of a Nomu. He still isn't completely turned into one, but right now his mind really is kind of weird. But he's saying that, you know, no one's following me no more, and he's saying that Kurogiri still hasn't woken up, and we see him kind of have flashbacks to all of the different members of the villain group, and we know that he really did have a big following with Stain at first, but it seems like over the time that he was there with Shigaraki, he really did kind of become good friends with them, and we saw that present in the other chapters where we kind of see that they would game together, they had similar interest, and it really does seem like he does respect Shigaraki so much so during this fight, and he really does just want to help out Shigaraki's will, and he wants Shigaraki to be happy, so that's what's really pushing him forward right now. He even says it himself in one of the panels. He says that all he ever really wanted to do was to keep following him, and that's where we really are right now with Spinner. He just wants to follow Shigaraki and help him out, and he wants him to be able to reach him there. So we see one of the hands of Shigaraki is on the floor, and now we know that this is how he's going to sort of wake up Kurogiri. We then cut back to Present Mike, and he's saying that Spinner stopped moving, and he's hoping that this would give him a chance to sort of wake up Kurogiri and get him onto the hero side instead. And he has a flashback or a sort of mind thing saying, you know, hey Shirakumo, do you know that Aizawa lost an eye and a leg? And it seems like he really does want to tell his friend about all of the stuff that has happened since he was taken away from them. And it's so sad seeing this panel knowing that this is one of his best friends of him and Aizawa, but it really just shows just how unforgiving All For One is for turning him into this. Present Mike even says himself that he'd rather Shirakuma actually just lose his memories and kind of fade away there instead of going to the villain side. But right now we see that in one last ditch effort, we see Spinner actually get up and put the mask onto his face, and this seems to completely turn Shirakuma right now. He's saying, let's save Shigaraki and the others, and Present Mike is reacting with a horrified face saying, you know, whoa, Shirakumo. And in the final panels of the chapter, we see that it seems Shirakuma's completely turned to the villain side, and he even says that he's the one that's going to protect Tomura Shigaraki. So it seems like he's completely turned right now, and Shirakumo's on the villain side, and that's actually where the chapter ends off this week. And this was a very amazing chapter. This was very sad, but it was very uplifting in terms of the mutant side of it. But right now it seems like Shirakumo really is going to go to the villain side, so it seems like they failed in that, and this is honestly the worst case scenario since he'll be able to warp All For One Shigaraki out of the fight with Deku, and this would give them time to not only regroup, but he'd be able to gain all of his quirks instead of not having any, since right now Aizawa's still looking at him. So this is the worst possible outcome, and things are going to get very bad if they aren't able to stop Shirakumo. With that being said, let me know what you guys thought of the chapter in the comment section. I thought it was a very good chapter, but let me know what you guys thought of it. Also, like the video if you liked it and subscribe, as it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys for sticking around and watching the videos. I really do. Follow my TikTok and my Twitter. I'm going to put those in the top right corner. But with that being said, I'm out. Peace.